3 months ago, I made some video talking about the 5 frames that I think that everybody should own. And the truth is, I forgot 2 frames on that list that definitely should have been on there. And after seeing your feedback and going through and actually playing on those frames, they definitely deserve spots on those lists. And that is Rhino Prime and Trinity Prime. Those frames are amazing, and you'll see me using them in some of these clips because they're very fun. I don't know why I didn't use them before, but after seeing all of your guys' comments and some of your, talking about how you play them and, some of the builds that you have, I'm definitely going to start giving them more tries because they are very fun to use, and they're all just so useful. But with that out of the way, I thought I would make a list of 10 weapons that everyone should own, and of course, again, like last video, these are my opinion, and these are just going to be weapons that I believe are some of the best in-game. Now, I'm going to try and do an even amount for each primary, secondary, melee, but of course 10 doesn't allow that to happen, so there's going to be one more primary or secondary, I don't remember which. But either way, let's just begin and go in with the first weapon on this list. First up, we have the Dread. Now, the Dread is on this list because it's one of the easiest bows to get in-game, and it's one of the most powerful weapons that you're going to ever own. It has a base crit chance of 50%, which means that it easily gets to an above 100% crit chance whenever you're running the point strike and everything. And it also has a base crit multiplier of 2.0, which is great. Now, it also is mainly a slash weapon, which just means that it's going to destroy every enemy in-game, because as of right now, slash is a little broken, because it causes bleed, which means that it doesn't worry about shields, it kind of can rip through shields. And all in all, it's just one of the best bows you can get in game. It has a mastery rank of 0, so anyone can get it. It just drops from the Stalker, and it's one of his most common drops. So if you don't have this, just go and get it if you're new. And other than that, I think everyone knows why it's on this list. It's just a beast of a weapon. Let's just move on. Up next, we have a spot that was kind of hard for me to choose, and that is the Amprex. Now, the reason it was hard is because there's another weapon very similar to it, which is the Ignis, except for I feel like the Amprex works better in most cases, because to me, at least my build on my Amprex compared to my Ignis, makes my Amprex a lot stronger. Now, of course, if you have one or the other, they're going to work pretty similarly. You can use them to just shred hordes of enemies, and the Ignis can obviously shoot through walls because it has that innate punch through. But to me, I like my Amprex more because I have quite a few Forma on it, so it's pretty fun to run. If you run a corrosive build, you get that crit chance at 50%. You can obviously max that and get it to 125%, and then with a corrosive, you're just going to decimate enemies. You just tap the trigger once, and it's going to kill them, even though it works more like you hold the trigger to kill them. It works just the same, just run that 125% crit chance, and you're going to be golden. Now, the biggest downside to both the Ignis and the Amprex is that you are going to need the ammo mutation mods, or you're going to need a carrier. And honestly, this is one of the few times where that ammo mutation build is going to be very good. But other than that, there isn't really much more to say. Both of these weapons are great. If you prefer one or the other, nothing against you, that's fine. They're both amazing weapons. They're going to get you through pretty much anything that you need to. So let's just move on to the next spot. Up next is a weapon that I'm pretty sure everyone has by now, and that's the Vectis Prime. This weapon has recently been given away to pretty much everyone who has Twitch Prime because of that promotion that's been going on, and even if you haven't gotten it yet, it's still available through that, I'm pretty sure, and you can obviously just run the free trial for Twitch and you get it. Now, the reason this weapon is so good is because of just all of its stats. It has a 25% crit chance, which on a sniper is amazing, because it has the zoom-in stats, which allow you to increase your damage multipliers, and it increases headshot damage and everything else. So the Vectis Prime has a 6 times headshot multiplier if you zoom in all the way, and with that it increases your headshot damage by 55% too. So all in all, this weapon just has insane stats. It has the highest status, it has a high status chance for snipers. It has a very fast reload speed, and I personally recommend running a depleted build because then you just have one shot, but if you're running it with the charged chamber, that first shot obviously deals insane amounts of damage because the 40% extra damage, and then you automatically reload, so it's always your first shot. And it just makes it insanely high in damage, and it also has great ammo efficiency and everything else about it. Again, all around just amazing stats, and if you haven't used this weapon, give it a try. This is one of the main weapons I use when I'm doing endgame stuff because it one-shots pretty much everything in the game. So yeah, it's just a great weapon, and I highly recommend you guys get it too. For the final primary, this is one that can of course be swapped in between 3 different weapons because it is the Tigress. Now, the Tigress has 3 different forms. It has the Tigress Prime, Sancti Tigress, and then the normal Tigress, and all of them are amazing. Now, the reason that I want the Tigress Prime on this list specifically is because it deals the most damage out of the 3, because it has, like, I don't know, mine's at like 13,000 slash, and I don't even have it modded. They're like, I don't have it formatted, I don't have my shotgun mods maxed. So it's just already really good. And the Sancti Tigress is the only other one I can recommend using unless you're newer to the game, because then you want the Tigress, because it still deals insane amounts of damage. But the reason the Sancti Tigress can be so good is because it can proc that health proc, which also procs everyone else with corrosive. But if you just run a corrosive and a slash build, you can get like 13,000 corrosive, which just makes the shotgun a beast on the Tigress Prime. And all in all, no matter what you're running, this gun will like one-shot everything that you come across. So definitely use this shotgun if you're running to run some other endgame stuff, or if you just want a shotgun that will blow people to shreds, because you get to see everyone blow up when you actually hit them with it, and it's just so fun to use. But that was all of the primaries, which I guess I did have 4 primaries, which means that the rest of the list is going to be secondaries and then melees, so let's move on. Up next is a weapon that I've started using a lot more recently, and that's the Pandero. Now, the reason I haven't been using it too much is because I didn't really like its secondary fire, but actually getting used to it, it's amazing. Now, this weapon has a normal fire, which is kind of like any other pistol. You just shoot once, and it has a small amount of recoil. And its secondary fire just shoots all of the rest of your shots in your magazine, like McCree's Fan the Hammer, in rapid succession. But one of the differences between this and other secondary fires is that it doesn't have a different set of stats. It's the exact same. It has the same crit chance and same damage output, which makes it amazing. Now, the reason it's so good is because the weapon's crit chance is already at 30% with a base slash damage of 38, which allows you to run some pretty insane builds if you run a crit and corrosive build. And you'll notice how you can just one-tap normal enemies, and then if you're fighting a much stronger enemy or a group of enemies, you can just hit the middle mouse button or whatever you have your secondary fire to, and then just look all around them, and you're going to be hitting all of them. It's just so fun to use, and it just deals such an insane amount of damage that if you don't already have this weapon, you're definitely missing out. You need to get these. Well, this weapon. It's not an AK. I don't know why I thought it was AK. They need an AK version of this. The AK Stiletto Primes are amazing. I don't know how to put it any other way. These are possibly the best secondaries in game, but there is one more that I do place much higher on this list. And now, of course, I actually didn't mention this earlier. This list isn't in an order. These are just the weapons that I think are really good. They're not in any particular order. They're just in order of primary, secondary, melee. But either way, the AK Stiletto Primes are amazing in every single aspect. They have a mastery rank requirement of 5, which is very easy to obtain for new players. They're very cheap because of how often everyone wants them, because they're just so used. They have a reload speed of 1.1 seconds. They have an ammo of 4 with a fire rate of 7.08, which means that you're not really going to run out of ammo too quickly because they don't shoot too fast. They deal insanely high amounts of damage with the fact that they have a 30% crit chance, which means, again, if you run corrosive build, no one is going to be able to stand in your way. You can just shoot them and they're gone. These weapons are all around super great, and they also have 2 very decent polarities of a dash and a V, which means that you're not really going to need to forma them to be that good. Of course, you can't make them much better, but they're at base very, very good. So if you, again, like I've said, almost every single weapon, if you don't have them, get them. They're very cheap, they're very affordable. I don't actually know why I even said both of those, and it's kind of implied. Just get these weapons, they're amazing. They turn me on. For our final secondary weapon, we have the Euphona Prime, and if you guys already know about this weapon, which you should, one thing you should know is that this weapon is insane. It's amazing. And that's because it has a base critical chance of 30% on its primary fire, and a base status chance of 30% on its secondary fire, which is just crazy because, of course, its secondary fire is a shotgun-esque shot, while its primary is more like a range shot. It's a projectile-based weapon whenever you're using that, and both of these shots deal insane amounts of damage if you mod them right. And the thing about this weapon is you don't need to forma it because it already comes with 3 V polarities, which means that you're gonna be pretty good. If you want to forma it, you can. It doesn't really help that much. It can make it even more overpowered. But other than that, its base stats are absolutely amazing. For its primary fire, it has a base impact of 292.5, and everything else is just 16.25, so it's not that high. But that impact damage is insane whenever you're pairing it with crit. And its secondary shot deals 660 slash, which is absolutely amazing, because as long as you're really close to an enemy, you're most likely going to be one-shotting them, which means that it's just a great weapon. Because it's also a shotgun shot, that means that the status chance really isn't 30%, because it's a multi-shot. So if you're running it with even more multi-shot, you just get even higher status chance, and it's really easy to pass 100% status chance with this weapon. And all in all, this weapon is just great. Go and get it whenever you hit Mastery Rank 14. You'll love it. Finally, we're on to melee weapons. Now, the first melee weapon on this list is going to be the Stiletto Prime. I personally just love this weapon because I love the heavy weapons in this game. They're just so fun to run if you can get your Berserker to activate, because you just start going through every single enemy, and it's just a lot of fun to be had. Now, one of the favorite things for me about this weapon is that it has a base status and crit chance of 20%, so you can run both builds on it. You can run it with Corrosive, and you can run it with the Berserker build with a high crit chance, and you're just going to be shredding through enemies. And another thing that's great about this weapon is it has 2 V polarities, and its stance polarity is D, which means it works with Tempo Royale and Cleaving Whirlwind, which are 2 of my favorite stances for heavy weapons, and just in the game in general, because they have very easy combos to use that deal insane amounts of damage. And other than that, there isn't much to be said. It has a base slash damage of 156.8, which is very good, and it's just a very fun weapon to run, especially if you're running tankier builds such as a Rhino or even the Valkyrie build with the melee speed. But other than that, this weapon is very easy to get as long as you're Mastery Rank 13, so go ahead and pick it up. You're going to enjoy it a lot. For our final weapon, we have the Frey Gore Prime. Now, this is a critical-based hammer that deals 91 impact damage, which is very good, and it is a very fun weapon to use. It has a base V polarity on the stance and 1 V polarity in all of the 8 slots, and that means you're going to be wanting to run Crushing Ruin, which I don't have right now, and I also don't have mine modded correctly. I don't have a Catalyst, I don't have anything else on it because I lost my old one. But everything out of the way, this weapon is just incredible. It deals insane amounts of damage, especially if you're running a Berserker build because of how fast it can attack, and it just fits the tanky vibe really well if you're running it with such as like Rhino Prime or just any other tank frame, and it's a very nice weapon to have. Now, another thing to note about it is how high its critical hit statistics are, which are that they're very good because of course it has a 35% base crit chance, which is insanely good for a melee weapon. And another thing to note about the crit is that it also has a 2.5 times crit multiplier, which means it's going to do 2.5 times more damage on a critical hit, which is insanely good. Now, this only has a Mastery Rank of 7, so it's fairly easy to get, and it's also fairly cheap because of how popular it is. Well, actually, I don't know if it's really that popular to be used. It's just a very common drop, so it's fairly cheap to get. But all in all, it's just a great weapon. If you don't have it already, I highly recommend getting it. Finally, we have the Lesion, or the Lesion, whatever you want to call it. I don't really know how to pronounce it. And this is a polearm that has a Mastery Rank of 7, and after you get it, you will know why it's a great weapon. It has such a high radius, and you can swap this out for the Orthos Prime if you want, but I just prefer this one. I think it's a lot better. It has a status chance of 30%, and it has a base slash of 75. It also has an innate attack speed increase and bonus toxin damage upon landing successful hits with status effects. Now, of course, I'm just reading this from the wiki, and you can see whenever you're actually using it, it does do that, and it's very useful because it just deals extra toxin damage whenever you combine it with other elements, which means that you're going to be dealing insane amounts of status damage because, again, it has a base status chance of 30%, which is higher than the Orthos Prime, which is why I prefer this over the Orthos, because the Orthos only has a 15% status chance and it has less slash. So all in all, I just think this weapon is a lot better. Again, you guys can comment your opinions down below, and that's going to do it for this list. There weren't really that many weapons. Of course, I could go through a lot more, but it would take a lot more time. And, I mean, you guys are probably going to disagree with it anyways. But either way, just tell me what your guys' favorite weapons are in the comments below. put your list down there, whatever you want to do. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me anything else that I might not know about certain weapons. And if you are new to my channel, be sure to subscribe. It really helps out. Thanks for the support on the last video, and as always, I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.